mentioned, I'm Director of Innovation at SuperHuman. I'm joined by Felix, who's also part of the innovation team with me. If you do want to tweet, because obviously having Twitter here, that would be nice, we'll be taking some Q&A later, so the hashtag is HeyHumanPostcard, so please do fire questions to that. But, you know, phones on silent would be yes. So I think, you know, just to start off, Felix and I are really jammy in that we get to fly off to these exciting places and play with lots of new toys. And that's various different conferences around the world, so it's things like the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, and also looking at Mobile World Conference as well, so looking at the latest things coming out there. But the focus for tonight is South by Southwest, and that's quite a distinct beast in that it's an incredible mecca for sort of international innovation and technology. And the quality of speakers there is incredible, from the likes of, I mean, just as an indication, to Tim Berners-Lee. So you literally have the father of the internet turning up, telling you what he thinks about what we're doing with his creation. So really kind of eloquent. And I think the important distinction versus something like the Consumer Electronics Show is that it's not just about jumping on the latest shiny object. It's actually thought leaders discussing and starting the debate, and increasingly a debate that spills over into modern culture, particularly given that Edward Snowden was a key feature of the festival this year, about whether or not things can become part of our culture. And I think the key point here is, if the sense is, if they could, should they? And that's really a core focus tonight. You know, and an interesting point that we meet at in terms of the tube strike and technology potentially replacing people. So it is a very, as Rupert says, it's a very zeitgeist tension that we find ourselves in. So I'll just quickly take you through sort of just the sort of top lines that we want to share tonight. So it is absolutely, as per the title, about creating superhuman brands in the age of technology, and the emphasis there is on the word human. So as we apply more technology and replace man with machine, how do we actually stay human in that context? And I think also it's looking at the one constant. So we've got a great context of the age of technology where things are moving really quickly and changing dramatically. The one constant we have in that is people. So, you know, you probably expect that from an age-skilled HeyHuman, but I think it's really important that we focus on people-led benefits first and look at technology second. So, you know, that's really the other key point. And I think finally, in this context of rapid change, it's important to actually outline a roadmap, and that's what we look to doing. So we actually fundamentally believe there are three things that technology needs to do, which is very much focused on people and being benefit-led. So the one thing we hope that you'll take away from tonight is this kind of roadmap, which we've actually, you know, in the simplest human terms, we've tried to map out in terms of postcards on the wall. So please do look at these, and there'll be a takeaway pack later as to how we think technology can deliver into that. And of course there'll be South by Southwest examples, so some of them are deliberately out there because we want to show you some of the shiny stuff that we get to see, which might be 5-10 years hence, but we'll always try and make that tangible for you, so link tomorrow back to today as well. So just as a start point, I think, you know, just to sort of emphasise this in terms of human babies build human brands, that's our core belief, and I think focusing on the behaviours of people and also the behaviours brands behaving more like people is a critical aspect of what we do. The challenge we have is the context we now find ourselves in with technology. So how do we stay human in that context? And so if we take a little, space seems to be very in at the minute, so you know, this is actually a recent shot from the Hubble. If we take a look down at this kind of world of ours, there's a hell of a lot going on. And I think you know, we've described this as a technology climate change. So I think you have a confluence of different influences which can be really exciting. So, you know, we've got the web, we've got social media, we've got mobile devices all coming into play at once. And I think, as climate change suggests, this is a significant and lasting change to the way we live our lives. So it's really thinking about, you know, we're not just living as sort of hackers into a digital world, we're living digital lives, and it extends us and allows us to do more, and that can be really exciting if approached positively. I think we've just got to consider different facets of this in terms of the climate change. So this is a shot you may have seen before, which is from the Pope's inauguration in 2005, and I just think the classic adage of a picture speaking 1,000 words. In 8 short years, just look at the difference. Same picture, same event. Just look at the difference. Just 8 years later. There's always one taking photos on an iPad, I don't know why. But I think the biggest thing here is really this is about superhuman connectivity. So we take a lot of this for granted, but I think even if we spoke to ourselves 8 years ago, just this sense of you can be, apologies, just this sense of, I'll go on to Milliban in a minute. Go back. Sorry. So, we've got a world of knowledge at our fingertips. We can be aware of what hundreds of people are thinking and doing within seconds of waking up. And I think most importantly as well in the sort of marketing communications context, your audience now is an audience. So you're only seconds away from them communicating about your brand. And obviously part of that is increased transparency. And I'll try and put the rabbit back in the hat and get on to Milliban. So I just couldn't resist this, and apologies to anyone that's been affected by the recent floods, but just in terms of the pace of change, I just thought this was priceless in terms of, you can see on his face that he realises he's brought the wrong wellies to the party. As much as this is not an endorsement, and I hasten to add that, the person that's got it right for once is Farage, and I think, it's only in this context, clearly. I think the thing to emphasise here is the pace of change. So things are accelerating so rapidly. It was quite stunning at South by Southwest to hear about biotechnology. Capabilities in that field are actually doubling every 3 months. So it just starts to say in certain areas, although change can be perceived as progressive, it can become exponential. So in this context, we really can't just react, we need a roadmap to actually navigate that. And I think just more tangibly, in the next 3 years, and you probably know this from your own living rooms, Gartner predicts that tablets will quadruple. And equally, apparently the iWatch is coming in September allegedly, but wearables are going to explode. So we're looking at 120 million within three years. So I think just in that context, a dynamic change, we've got to get a solid roadmap. I think also we'd be completely remiss if we didn't comment on the appearance of this chap at South by Southwest this year. So Edward Snowden obviously couldn't appear in person because he would have got some bracelets pretty quickly, I think. But it was really powerful to hear the hushed silence of the room as this guy joined us by video link from Russia. And I think the really interesting thing here is that he said, and it's fascinating to say, I did this because I didn't sign up for this kind of world. I didn't sign up for use of data where it's adversarial to me, and everything I do is monitored forever by forces unknown. And so I think it was incredible how that impacted kind of collective consciousness. And even moving into our world, this was from Martin Rani, who's the president of the World Federation of Advertisers, that cautioned brands against a WikiLeaks moment. So he said brands have got to beware a WikiLeaks moment. And I think this is now getting to the stage where I suppose there's two things here. One, in the context of technology, it shows that we're one click away from revelation. So it's really thinking about behaviours, and I think importantly in that context, if we can get found out, then obviously the best thing to do is to have better ideals. So if we have better ideals, we've got nothing to hide. And I think that's really sort of a key point we're trying to land tonight. And so, what's an appropriate response? I feel sorry picking on this chap, I'm going to, sorry. We can't just jump on every new technology we see. So this was a guy who became infamous at the festival, who was riding a Segway, had Google Glass on his face, I don't know if you've heard of this, where it's the heads-up display, and texting while simultaneously rowing into an SUV. To shape that, we come back to our one constant. So apologies, an animated GIF had to appear somewhere. But this is, I think, quite eloquent about the sort of use of technology, and sort of from cavemen to picking up an animal bone to a mobile phone. It's all about making ourselves better. It's all about extending ourselves and allowing ourselves to flow through the world. And so really in this context, it absolutely is about people first and tech second. So we think the imperative as a vision is to think about, I'll use the clicker. is to think about how we humanise technology, and that's really kind of the principal message that we felt coming out of South by Southwest this year, was how we use technology to understand and empower positive behaviours. And I think increasingly as we go on, the focus is going to be on positive behaviours. And I think the key thing here that we're trying to land is we think there's 3 pillars to do that. So, all right.
It's a secret.
Yeah. So, first of all, we think that brands need to know me. So we need to start to think about the data that we collect. How can we marry that with creativity and actually start to deliver things to people that sort of harmonise with what they're trying to get to. So it's really about uniting kind of creativity and code. Secondly, we'll go down. Help me, new clicker, please. Help me is really around service design. So it's thinking about the most valuable intersection we can have as a brand in people's lives and designing into that. And then finally, and this is the more forward-looking technology that we want to share with you tonight, it's about improve me. So it's actually allowing people to understand their habits and behaviours and therefore make more positive choices as a result. So with that sort of setup in context, I'll hand over to Felix, who's just going to take you through some examples from South by Southwest that will deliver into these areas.
Got to take responsibility for the clicker now. So the first pillar that I'll take you through is all about how technology can know me. And the context that has driven this is that people are massively attached to their technology these days. 80% of teenagers now sleep with their phones under their pillows, and we know everything about our technology. I sit, like everyone else in the room, I sit there with my phone in my hand all day. I know everything it can do, but it doesn't really know who I am, or what I care about, or what I'm motivated by, or anything about me personally. But there's lots of really exciting new technology that is letting us get a much deeper understanding of people. So new technology such as sensors, contextual data, emotional awareness, and lots of really exciting things are making this easier than ever and open up opportunities for brands to use deeper insights and personalisation to respond in much different ways. So I'll take us through a few examples about how technology is being used to know me, and specifically ones from South by Southwest of how people are doing this now and where it's going to go in the future. So the first example is from Burger King and Google. So this was all about how technology can know my context. And there's a big term that gets thrown around in innovation a lot, which is disruption, which everyone seems to want to talk about. But we actually feel it's a bit of a misnomer, and brands should be focusing less on disruption and more on harmony, because no one wants to be disrupted. Being disrupted is annoying. This specific example is around pre-roll ads. So when you go on YouTube, you're trying to watch a video, they always play ads before it. Everyone hates them. The only time anyone ever interacts with them is hovering over the skip button waiting to watch the video they want to watch. So Burger King created a set of pre-roll ads that actually shared your frustration with them, and they created 64 different versions which will all personalise the video that you were about to watch.
YouTube ad. I hate these things. This guy's just trying to watch a graphic animal attack video, but no, I have to sit through an ad. Ugh, stupid, incredible deal. This guy's just trying to watch a screaming goat video, all black highlights, watch a music video, a Jimmy Fallon clip, an Anchorman 2 trailer, North Korean babies play the guitar, but no, they have to sit through an ad.
So that was presented by Google Creative Labs, a guy called Ben Malvin, who said that people want emotional rewards, immediacy and relevance, all delivered in real time. And this is a great example of how if we use code and creativity together, we can deliver into that. And there's a big opportunity gap, because over 2/3 of marketers say that personalisation around behavioural data has a big impact on ROI, but less than 20% of people are doing it. So we need to stop thinking around online content as just reiterating your TV ad, and actually use the smarter tools available to us to create much more intelligent and engaging content. And once we know people, we can actually use this data to anticipate their needs as well. So this was an amazing story told at South by Southwest by a guy called Robert Scoble. He uses this app, which you can see, called TripIt, which he connects to this app using his Gmail. He gives it all of his data. And TripIt then knows everything about every trip he takes, and they scan his booking references, they scan his emails with his PA, and they build this really rich profile around it. And he was sat on the plane about to fly to Texas, and he got a notification on his phone, pulled it out, and it said, your flight has been cancelled. There's one other flight that's going to get you to the festival on time, and it only has 2 seats left. We've reserved one of them for you, just click here to confirm it. And he instantly, with one tap of a button, reserved a seat on the plane. A couple of minutes later, he's still sat in his seat, no one knows what's going on. They announce over the PA that his flight has been cancelled. And then everyone has to leave the plane, go back to the departures lounge, try and find a new route, or inevitably end up in a hotel for the night. Well, he just flew straight through to Texas and made his conference. So this is an amazing example of how, if we give a sufficient value exchange, people will exchange their privacy, but you have to give enough utility in exchange for it. And privacy is obviously a big issue, but the key thing is being transparent about what people are getting in return. And it's an amazing example as well of how we can actually know what people want before they're even able to articulate it themselves. So with all this data available to us, we need to start thinking about what do people want and how can we fulfill their needs before they're even looking for it. So a really easy example of this is what Amazon have been doing around their recommendations. So if you buy a product online, they'll recommend 2 or 3 others that will go with it. And they're so good at doing this now that if, say, you're going on a camping trip and you buy 3 camping-related items, they will, when they get sent to the distribution centre nearest you, they'll add a 4th in there as well, which they know you're going to buy in a month from now, because it saves them money to ship it all in one go. And that's how amazingly rich their data is now and where this is going to be pointing to. So we need to be thinking about not only knowing people in the now, but knowing their needs and knowing where it's going to go in the future. And technology is even starting to know about our mood as well. So this is a project which is very much still in the lab, but it comes from Audi and MIT, and they're working on a smart car. And I'm sure everyone here has seen some kind of smart car concept. Most of the time they just take a normal car, put an iPad in it, job done. Audi are trying to take that to the next level and actually create a car that understands you and has a much more intimate relationship with this driver. So they've got a lot of sensor technology in this concept with the door handles and the mirror and the steering wheel. So when you get in the car, they can actually read if you're sleepy, if you're angry, or even if you've just come from the pub and shouldn't be on the road. And they'll stop you driving and like actually stop you driving the car anywhere, but they'll also offer you an alternate route using their onboard navigation system, using public transport, and they can even book you a taxi with you all using all inside the car. So it's looking after you and other people on the road and actually adapting the experience and messaging to suit your emotional state. And this is crazy, obviously. Like, this isn't going to be, we're not going to be using these for quite a while, but the simpler versions of this are already starting to happen. So you might have seen Tesco have started doing gender and age recognition on some of their ad shells in petrol stations. So when you go into the petrol station, they can find out how old you are and what gender you are and tailor the messaging to suit it. Imagine, like, using this technology, we could then, if it's a rainy day and you come in miserable, we could offer you a message to get a pick-me-up discount and make someone feel better about their day. So we need to be thinking about not only what's our brand's contextual relevance, but what's the emotional relevance as well. How do we fit into someone's emotional day? So those are all examples about how technology can know me and how we can use context and personalisation to understand people better. Technology needs to know me, but we also need to use this information in a really positive way. And when we use tech correctly, it can really help people glide through life, making everything simpler, easier, and just removing the friction in everything they're trying to do. So I'll go through a few examples of how technology can help me. So this first example comes from Nike. There's always a Nike example in every presentation. They created this app which was all around skateboarding. So skateboarding is obviously traditionally a very analog experience. You're in a skate park, you've got a half pipe, you've got a rail, and you might have some friends, but nothing else. There's no layer on top of that. And they built in this real-time mobile layer, which using this app lets you're in this skate park, you can find out videos of what the pros have done using this equipment and learn how to do it. You can play games, if you're in London, you can play a game of skate against your friend in Paris in real time and actually compete against him. And you can build this really rich personal skating history where you can find out when you learned things and what you did and actually like look forward to where you're going to learn new things and teach yourself. So taking this existing experience and making it more social, more competitive and more fun than ever before. So we need to be thinking about how can we take people's hobbies and interests and use technology to make them better, with a specific focus around real-time mobile experiences, because a lot of the time, I think we're all guilty of, if we recognise a hobby that aligns with our brand, we can easily tap into that, but unless we create something that they can use as they're doing it, it often feels a bit disconnected. So if something's on a desktop and I'm out and about skateboarding, probably not going to enjoy it as much as if it's something I can use in the moment. And a massive trend from South by Southwest this year, and something everyone seems to want to talk about, is the Internet of Things. Every second now, around the world, 100 new objects are connected to the internet that weren't before. So it's absolutely booming, and some of them are absolutely ridiculous. So I don't know if any of you saw Samsung's new fridge, which lets you tweet from it. I think it's a use case that no one has ever wanted to do in the history of using a fridge. But there's a big opportunity here. Like, connecting objects to the internet allows us to do amazing things, but being internet connected isn't enough, and there needs to be a real human benefit in why we are doing this. And there's a big area of opportunity where we can use technology to connect existing social groups. So this is a lovely example from a company called Mother, who created this weird-looking smart monitoring system, which is a physical object that sits in your house, and underneath it you can see it's got the little sensors, which you can attach these sensors to objects or people, and it helps parents manage their families in a really fun and engaging way, where they can motivate their kids by turning boring daily chores into a game. So you can have your 3 kids competing to brush their teeth the most, or exercise the most, or drink enough water, and it tracks them doing this in a really fun and engaging way. So I'll just play a video of how that works. I love the competitive dad kicking his kid's ass at teeth. But the really interesting bit of this is that it's not just adding to the noise. Everyone has enough data in their life. Everyone's inundated with data everywhere they look, and we know more about. We have more data than ever before, but we actually don't know that much more. And this is using data to actually tell a story and giving us insights from it. So we need to ensure that our brands and products are doing more than just adding to the noise, and focus on what's the behaviour change that we're trying to initiate from it. And another huge trend is wearable technology. As Dan said, it's going to grow by 350% in the next year. It's absolutely booming at the moment. And again, whilst there's a lot of weird stuff coming out of it, there's actually some really exciting examples of where this is going to go in the future as well. So one I wanted to highlight was one of the runners-up at the wearable competition in Texas is this app from a company called Fashion Discovery Labs for Google Glass. So Google Glass being the goggles you wear, they have a camera on it, and you can also see a layer on the world, a virtual layer, which doesn't exist. And they recognise the fact that when you're walking down the street and you see an outfit someone's wearing, you might like it, you might want to buy it. It's incredibly awkward to walk up to a stranger and like ask them, hey, where did you get this? How much does it cost? And using this app, you can look at someone and it uses image recognition to recognise what they're wearing, searches for it in an online database of existing retailers, finds a product, either the exact same one or a similar one, and adds it to your basket to buy later. And this is all done with one tap of a button. So this is recognising things people are already trying to do and making it simpler, easier, just removing the friction on all the steps that get in the way of people in normal life. And again, this is pretty nuts. This is probably not something anyone in here is going to be using anytime soon. But the principles of this are already starting to happen now. So I'm sure at least someone in this room has bought a bottle of wine at some point, really liked it, and tried to scan the label to remember what it is to use later. This is the same kind of thing where we're using tech shortcuts to get people's experiences. And there's also an Instagram service which does quite similar to this called Like to Know It, where you can take a photo of an outfit and they will, someone will come search for it and come back and tell you what it is. So the tech is crazy, but the principles behind it are really interesting about shortcutting people and removing the friction in what people are trying to do. So those are all good examples of how technology can help augment existing behaviours. Technology needs to know me, it needs to help me, and in the future it also has the potential to improve me. And there's a few things we're starting to see already that are making that happen. So Dan's going to take you through the third section, which is all about improve me.
Thanks a lot. So I think this is sort of more the further afield stuff. This is the real sexy, shiny stuff that we're getting to now. I think what's really interesting about the sense of technology being able to improve us is focusing on positive behaviours that it can empower. And the first example within this, do you want to do it? This first example within this is creativity, and I'm really jealous of this one. Kids these days just don't know how lucky they are. I still remember when the sense of innovation was a teddy bear with a string in its chest and you can pull it out. But I think this is great in terms of encouraging creativity. This is kind of Lego for the 21st century. So what's wonderful about this is it still has the same brilliant modular bits of Lego where you can actually let your imagination run free and build a dog or a robot, you name it. But it's actually got power brains and motors within it. So what you can do is build a dog. The power brain will record a movement that you play through it, and then literally your imagination can walk away from you like a dog or a robot, you name it. So it's just kind of this kind of startup mentality where they're using technology to lower the barriers of creativity. I think it's really exciting. And you know, in a sort of broad usage context, things like Instagram can be seen to be doing that already. So with the creative filters that you can apply, you've got 200 million people you know, involved in a photography community where they might otherwise feel that they can't be involved. So I think it's just, you know, in terms of tools like this or tools that we can create ourselves, how can we use those to empower creativity? I think just the next point, which feels very counter to technology in many ways, was just something I wanted to highlight as kind of an emerging trend. Technology can, at the moment, be very fragmentary. So it's kind of, you know, you're texting, tweeting, Facebooking, and just that sense of your attention being pulled in so many different directions at once. What we're starting to see now is actually a counter movement start to come out of conferences like South by Southwest, where you're getting technologies such as this one, which is called Muse, which is actually monitors your brainwaves. And what this does is give you tasks to actually focus on something specifically, and then it will give you real-time feedback as to how you're doing that and actually train your brain to concentrate more. So I just think it's really interesting from the point of view of, you know, you might have seen things like Nintendo's brain training game, for example, so that's already an existing example. But as we move on, technologies are going to come in that actually help us concentrate and focus on the things that we care about. And I think that's a really interesting opportunity for brands that are actually around mindfulness. And then finally, and I wanted to leave you with a bit of a touchy-feely one to finish on. I think as well, it's a common fact that most people reach for their phone before they reach for their partner in the morning. And so technology, perhaps unfairly, because at the end of the day it is just sort of what we do with it is up to us, is actually seen to come between people and actually can be something that will be a barrier in relationships. I think again, we must focus back on the fact it is a tool that will do what we instruct it to. So it's really around back to these positive behaviours, what do we want to get into? And I think what's fascinating is if we think about kind of the radio or TV, these are technologies that help people connect and share ideas through the medium of sound or vision. And I think hopefully if some of you play with an Oculus Rift, you can literally see and start to experience what it is to look through someone else's eyes. A really exciting kind of far horizon of where we're going is you can actually start to feel what other people are feeling. So in this context, this is literally superhuman tech, but very human, in that this was something done by Huggies, and it allows fathers-to-be to feel their baby's kick in real time. So this is a sort of an empathy belt where you can literally through vibration feedback, you can actually share that experience. There was one that lets them experience labour pain as well, but I thought that was I'll just play it. I'll just play a quick video. So we think if we can do these three things, even in the context of superhuman technology, then we can help brands to stay human. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks to Dan and Felix, first of all. My name's Neil Davis, and I'm the lucky person who gets to sign off their expenses and stay in London while they jet off. I think it would be, we can do it new school or old school. It would be great. We've got some questions on Twitter, but it would be great to get some questions from the floor. So if you just want to hold your hands up, and I can pick you out. Don't be shy.
Not all at once.
Who's the twist one?
Okay, we've got a couple here. I know you are. I know you're not that shy.
We got one.
But we can hear you from the back.
The absolute minimum, what should the brand be doing now in order to compete in the digital world?
Did everybody hear that?
Yeah, the absolute minimum.
Okay.
I think do the Three Pillars workshop.
In a normal, sorry everyone.
I think the first thing is there's an interesting aspect in this, specific to mobile, which again was a guy talking about Nike. And I think the biggest thing is to look at new channels not just as another channel to do advertising in. So I think it's thinking about what does that channel do, how do people interact with it, and therefore how can we deliver value appropriate to that channel. So that's social, mobile, you name it. And I think fundamentally it's kind of trying to move away from a kind of how can we just put advertising into that space to how can we actually add value in it. And I think increasingly, particularly with the onset of wearables, it's not just about decreasing size rectangles. So it's not just about what's the advert like on desktop, what's it look like on mobile, tablet, and so on. It's actually thinking about the behavioural context on that device, and therefore thinking about how we can deliver into that with the greatest surprise and delight.
And I think one of the key things to bear in mind as well is though, even though these three pillars are all good, it's a good structure to look at positive use of the technology, they will all be relevant to different brands and to different levels, and it's not just box ticking of if I've got all three then I'm using tech correctly. We built a framework to understand exactly how these are applied to different brands and how you can get better understanding of which is appropriate, because some brands may need to focus more on know me than improve me and vice versa.
Okay. Just one question that I got in terms of Twitter was, you didn't really talk a lot about social. Did that come up at South by Southwest at all?
Yeah, I mean social was pretty, it was everywhere really, but it wasn't really seen as a separate channel anymore. Social is more, social is a common part of a lot of these examples we pulled out, and it's more just a tool people are using now rather than seeing as a standalone channel, because social is obviously a behaviour. It's something, we are all social people, and if we see social as a standalone channel, that's probably not reflective of how people behave. People don't do things in silos, so we need to see social as something inherent in everything we're doing, rather than just, again, taking it off as an extra channel we need to consider.
Any questions? Mr. Lawrence.
What was the big difference this year to last year or previous years? Was there a continued theme that was followed through from last year? Or?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and it was marked. You know, in 2013 there was a sense of it's a brave new world, everything's going to be amazing, and just stampede forward. So you had Google Glass coming out, you know, you had tech commentators saying this is going to change the world in 1 to 2 years, and the same commentators are now saying I actually think this is a really bad idea, because the human experience of it is it's quite invasive. And so, you know, I think what you've also got is the context of Edward Snowden as well. So, you know, it is, and also Julian Assange, who both appeared. And I think in that context, there was a change from just do everything that's new and stampede forward to suddenly putting the brakes on and saying we actually need to take a step back and think about how we're applying these things to actually, you know, create positive value. So I think it was 2013 was absolutely a geek fest loving, where it was brilliant and we're going to change the world. And 2014 felt a little bit like the world looked back and said, you can't just erase the present with the future. We're going to have a negotiation here. So I think the biggest thing to take out is, and the Evening Standard article reflected this perfectly, we've got to start to look at, as brand owners and agencies, what are the positive values we're putting forward. And I think, you know, we can avoid a WikiLeaks moment if we're behaving correctly with appropriate use of technology.
One other one. I think Debbie was struck by the empathy belt. Any other examples of brands using technology to connect emotionally?
I think the empathy thing is a really good example of how it's just tapping into a basic human need, rather than, I think whilst empathy is something that is going to grow massively, but it's still very niche at the moment. But there was some nice examples of really human tech which is used slightly differently. It's like things like there was a great alarm clock which when it goes off in the morning, no one wants to chase it. No one wants to get up for their alarm, but everyone knows they have to. So this alarm clock, when you woke up, it would actually run away from you, and you'd have to go chase it and turn it off. And I guess what I thought was really good about that is kind of recognising what you need, not what you want. And I think whilst it isn't empathy, it ties into understanding what people's fundamental needs are and flipping it slightly.
Any more questions before we move on? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Dan and Felix. Obviously.